Hey there, and welcome to Crushing with Abby O. I'm your host, Abby O'Sullivan. This podcast is inspired by over 10 years in the beauty industry and the stories shared between a beauty professional and her clients. The type of girl talk that only happens behind closed doors or in the chair. Along with hilarious stories based on real life and the dating world, I'll be dishing out all of the secrets on self-care, health, and fitness. As a longtime lash extension artist turned health and fitness coach, I'm passionate about helping you view healthcare as self-care through nutrition, lifestyle, mindset, movement, stress management, and more. So grab a drink and a snack and come join me for a laugh. Welcome back, Crushers. Welcome back to the Crushing with Abby O podcast. And today you're in for a real treat because I'm having a threesome on the show today. But wait a minute. Not that kind of threesome. Get your head out of the gutter. Come on now. I have on the podcast with me today, Jillian and Jaimie from the Lady Power Moves Project. I love these two because we vibe the same on helping women see how amazing they are and really tapping into their own potential power. I've personally been inspired by them and their message, and I really enjoy talking and giggling with these two powerful women. Doing a Zoom interview was hard because especially if Jillian cracks, I will crack. And then it's basically just me trying to hold it together for an entire hour of this podcast. We talk sexuality, sex, tips for stress, and self-love and care. Checking in with yourself, like super simple ways, Jillian and Jaimie's go-tos for checking in and providing yourself with self-care during the day. Jaimie is a women's mindset and sexual wellness coach, and Jillian is a women's health leader, and they have come together to create the Lady Power Moves Project. Their mission is to help women step into their full potential through nutrition, fitness, and mindset coaching that will enable you to show up powerfully in your relationships, your body, and your community. Let's welcome Jillian and Jaimie to the podcast. Welcome to the podcast, Jillian and Jaimie. It's so nice to have you here. I'm so excited for our chat today.
Me too.
Excited to be here.
Yeah. Okay, so for the audience, for the listeners, I would love for you both to introduce yourselves and tell us how you became a coach. And whoever wants to go first can.
You can go first, Jillian.
I'm always like, I feel like Jaimie always makes me go first. Okay, so I basically got into coaching because I was overweight. I was pre-diabetic. I was a smoker. I smoked about a pack of cigarettes most days, but especially on the weekends when I was binge drinking, maybe more.
Shock face.
I know, right? People are like, what? But yeah, so it was more of like a health concern. Like I just kind of had like an epiphany moment where I was like, I do not want to live the rest of my life this way. And I took it upon myself to just kind of like self-teach with no actual intent to make this my career or my career path. And so that's kind of how I got started. There's a lot of like intricacies I could share, but maybe we'll dive into that like inside of the conversation that we have today.
Sure.
And then Jaimie can go and then we can share how we like came together.
Okay. So yeah, I feel like there's a lot of intricacies on my end too. So I went into fitness coaching because I grew up overweight. I was overweight pretty much my entire childhood into my 20s. And my weight was something that was on my mind 24/7. I mean, very insecure person. So when I started working out and I started finding health, it was so many things changed for me. I started working out, and then I'd say 5 years after I, went through my own journey and my own obstacles, then, I was at the gym like all the time. And the owner of the gym was like, hey, why don't you start, shadowing some of these 6-week challenges for women? And that's what I did. So I really just started with like shadowing. And then I think I just connected with the women inside of these weight loss challenges so well because I understood where they were coming from. I understood the vulnerability of them walking in the door. And I wanted to be that person where they could feel comfortable and have somebody to talk to and just understand where they were coming from. So that was in 2016. And since then, I've been running these women's challenges, teaching like private women's classes. And it really just all goes back to because of my own weight loss journey. And I wanted to be there for those women.
Mm-hmm. How did you get more into like the mindset side, Jaimie?
So that's the other part of me. I am
Okay.
also I call myself a sex and love architect.
Mm.
So I'm in 2013, I went to nursing school. So I actually have my nursing degree. And when I was in the middle of nursing school, I started selling Pure Romance. Some of you guys may have heard of Pure Romance. It's like a direct sales company. And I literally just did it just because I wanted to like make some money and I loved Pure Romance products. So I started it and I didn't realize how much education that they taught us about female sexual health.
Mm.
So when I first got into that, I didn't know anything about sex, really. It was an uncomfortable topic for me to talk about. I didn't like talking about it, didn't really understand sexual anatomy. And I remember thinking, why don't they teach us this stuff in nursing school? Like, why didn't I learn half of this stuff in nursing school? Because it's super important. So long story short, ended up doing Pure Romance for a few years, and my sex coaching business kind of evolved from there. And so not only did I start doing the fitness coaching in 2016, but I was still doing like sex coaching and educating women on their bodies throughout this entire time up until now. So yeah, it's just something that I love educating women on their bodies and taking these taboo subjects that nobody wants to talk about. And I want to be the person to talk about it, whether it's low libido, which is what so many women suffer from. Like, why aren't we talking about these things?
Mm-hmm.
So that's like my big thing. I've kind of integrated, I love this thing that, Jillian and I have come together on, because I still love the fitness. I still love the nutrition, but I've always wanted to build a program that encompassed everything. And I knew that I couldn't do that on my own.
Mm-hmm.
So Jillian and I found each other. I actually hired Jillian as my nutrition coach. I felt like I was getting to this point of just plateau, and Jillian is like the best at nutrition. So I hired her, and was that a couple years ago now. And we met that way, and we just she found out that I do the sex and love. And we decided to try a challenge, like a 3-week challenge together, came together, and it's really just evolved from there.
I felt like I always wanted it to be more than just about like fat loss or fitness. And I think those are really great places for us to start stepping into our power. But it was like, I found in researching and looking for the help that I felt like I wanted, that there was no like one all-encompassing program that you could step into as a female to get the help in all these different ways. So it really came about. Jaimie one day on one of our coaching calls was like, do you want to start a podcast? And I was like, hell yeah, but what are we going to talk about? And then we realized that our view on like women's health and like the taboo subjects and breaking down the stigma around the taboo subjects, like we were both super passionate about. And she brings a whole other like, layer of things to the table than I do with my experience and my background. And it just plays off of each other very nicely. So yeah, Jaimie is also amazing at what she does.
Yeah, I love sex and love architect. I love it.
That was a cool name. I'm like, I'm calling myself that.
Yeah, that's how I'm going to introduce you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that story that you guys were able to come together and then just build this really special program and way to coach women just beyond like fat loss and fitness and really dive deep into everything. I love it. Yes. So why do you think women struggle with sex, with love, with like talking about it, with self-love and just kind of loving our bodies as they are?
I think it goes back to body image. That's going to be one of the big things, which is why this program ties so nicely together, is because yes, on one end of the program, we're working on body, we're working on health, we're working on nutrition. I mean, there's so many things that go back to it. It's can be how you were brought up. It can be your take on sex. It could be, did your parents talk about it, not talk about it? Was it a taboo subject growing up? Talking about sex is taboo in our society. 100% it's taboo. So I just think people have a hard time being open about talking about it. There's that, plus, like I said, not being comfortable with our bodies is also huge.
There's just such a stigma about it. Like,
too.
if you do talk about it, you're like, oh, you're those people, like, you know?
Yeah,
totally.
I was actually watching, I was watching Madonna's Truth or Dare from the 90s, which is a documentary about a tour that she did. And it was really, at the time, I remember because I was young, it was really racy. And Madonna was not shy about talking and expressing like sex and sexiness and people like same-sex love and all of that. Like, she was very at the forefront of bringing a lot of taboo things to the public. And I was just thinking about that when you were talking about that. If a lot of times, if women, like, if we like to talk about sex or if we seem sexually open, we're like labeled. We could be labeled sluts or promiscuous or just any of those random words. And that's such a societal old white man thing. But
yeah, your sexuality is very much dumbed down. If you like, it could go back to so many reasons of why we don't honor our sexuality from the time that we're young. So same thing, like you said, if maybe you grow up and you're a teenager and you want to put a skirt on, and then you're labeled as being a whore. Or, we're taught that periods are dirty. Or if you had one bad experience with a period and you got to like cover up your waist because you're so embarrassed by you know what I mean? So now you have this mentality of, well, I don't like my body. That's what you learn from that experience. Like, I want a different body.
Yeah.
And there's all these like little subliminal messages that build up over time to, no wonder we have such a hard time with our sexuality, with our bodies, with just being a woman in general. So this is what we're trying to break.
Yeah. I mean,
we're trying to bring some self-awareness around why we think this way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. Yeah. Even just the fact that like a lot of people don't or can't talk about their period comfortably. And like the fact that we don't even know what's going on half of our lives, really. It's just sad. I mean, sex education is just not where it could or maybe should be in the United States, at least.
That's one of my favorite things to share is like, the only thing I remember from sex ed in high school was like, I learned how to put a condom on a banana, and I was shown very graphic videos of like women giving birth. So like, what does that teach us? What do those two things teach us as women? Like,
don't have sex.
Don't have sex.
Or you get like a nasty looking STD.
Cater to the male. Make sure you learn how to help him out, because God forbid he learn how to do that himself. Like,
for sure.
It's comical though, seriously, right?
It really is.
Insane.
Well, and like, I've wondered if we even at that, like the ages that we started that, if it needed to be like a gradual process of knowledge, like layers, if we're even able to comprehend. But I don't think that I should discount like how smart we are at that age or what we're able to absorb either. Everyone's a little different in their maturity level, of course. Like, who didn't like giggle? I mean, I still laugh about stupid stuff, like, right? Like the image of putting a condom on a banana. We definitely did not do that. Like,
really?
No, we did not do that in Kansas. No. Kansas is like, no, we are not even going to touch that. No, did you both, like, however, in your household, was it pretty open, or how did you grow up, like, talking about sex and your body and everything?
In my household, I would say it was different, but it was like to the extent of where like we'd be at, sitting at dinner and my mom would be like, penis, vagina, like, what's the big deal? They're just words. But then like having actual conversations about these things, there were still these stigmas placed around like like Jaimie was saying, like, if you wear this, you're a slut, or if you do this, like, it's perceived this way, and you don't want to be perceived that way, right? Like, you don't want to embarrass the family or whatever the case. So it was normalized, but also like still with stigmas around it.
Yeah. It's almost like they like an inadvertent, like maybe a well-intentioned protection or something, you know, like they don't want anyone to take advantage of you or to see you, but then they're telling you that. And so then it, you know, kind of gets in your head. What about you, Jaimie?
No, I don't know. My family definitely didn't talk about sex, did not say the word sex, didn't say the word period, like, no. And it's so weird because when I started selling, I remember I was in my like early 20s when I started selling Pure Romance, and I told them that I was going to do this. And I've always just kind of like followed what felt right for me. Didn't really care what anybody thought. I'm just going to do this. And I know they had a hard time with it. Like, their 24-year-old daughter is going to be selling dildos. Like,
Whoop, whoop.
no, you're supposed to be a nurse.
I'll
You're
be your
supposed to be a
friend.
nurse. Yeah. So I think they struggled with it for a long time because I ended up I graduated with my nursing degree, but I didn't follow that route. I really truly believe that I should be helping women in this way of teaching them about their bodies. And where was I going with this? So yeah, I think they had a hard time with it for a long time. They were supposed to have a daughter that was a nurse, and here I am.
Well, they did,
which is so funny that because nurses deal with like bodily functions. So, I mean, also shout out to Pure Romance for bringing us Jaimie.
Yeah, I am like grateful for them all the time. But yeah, it's so weird. We didn't talk about it at all.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe why I have such a passion for wanting to talk about it.
Yeah. I don't remember it being much talked about either. I started my period when I was visiting my dad and my stepmom, and I did not know what to do. And I waited and waited and waited like all day. And I finally like crept downstairs at night and like, you know, peeked in and was like, can I talk to you? Like her alone, you know? And then for the next hour, I think we talked about whatever. And I was like, what about panty liners? And what about tampons? And like, how do I use these? And what do I do? Like, you know, and it was like, here's a pad. And I was like, okay.
Did you feel embarrassed? Was there almost like an embarrassment, like shame kind of around it?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was just because I like, well, you know, she's my stepmom too. And it's not like I didn't think I couldn't talk to her, but like my dad was there and yeah, but she was very sweet. Like she age-wise is like in between me and my dad. So it's like not like she was that much older, you know, and in that sense, she was in her late 20s. And so I think she felt very like able to be kind of helpful and motherly and like a friend to me in that way. And yeah, I mean, it was like, I just have all these questions now. And if somebody doesn't use tampons or whatever, then you're like, so, I mean, I've actually read the directions on the box. I mean, who hasn't? Like, that's really fun. I like to look at the descriptions and the instructions boxes of everything, like condoms, like whatever. I think it's so funny. But that's, you know, sometimes how you learn. I mean, even like shaving my legs, I think I like asked and I was embarrassed to ask about it, but I was getting a little bit of shit at school for having hairy legs and I have dark hair. And so why don't you shave your legs? And I'm like, well, because I'm not as advanced as you, apparently. Like,
I don't know how yet.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. My mom hasn't told me that I can. Like, so it's just so weird how, and then I don't know. I mean, shit, I didn't have boyfriends like growing up, really. Like I was kind of a dork in school. I wasn't like making out with the boys in my school. Like they weren't, I mean, I've watched them pick their nose since they were in third grade. Why the hell would I want to like go out with them? But when I finally did experience that, I was like, whoa, I see what everyone's talking about now. And then it was like straight into the world of sex and just, I don't know. I mean, at that point, you're just kind of fooling around and it took me a long time to like figure out what I really like from that experience, I think.
For sure.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Dives into inside of like our women's mentorship program. And I think I say this all the time. I say like my kind of like my side of the program is really geared towards nutrition fitness. Like that's majority of my background, right? And Jaimie brings that whole side of things to the table. And I always joke about this in the beginning. I say like people come in because they want or they think they want my help, but then they start having these types of conversations with Jaimie and like I become irrelevant.
But not really. I mean, they still need that guidance, right? Well, but that's because we don't get to talk about it, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I talk about everything with my girlfriends now, but definitely growing up, I don't know, my other girlfriends that were dating, I don't remember like asking them like, what's this? And like, what's that like? I think I felt kind of like I should know. And I didn't have any clue. I was like, fingering, what's that? I was so innocent.
Yeah, I definitely think when you're younger, you get all the information from like your friends.
Yeah.
And how accurate is it? How accurate is it when you're getting the information from your 17-year-old friend?
Yeah. I mean, it was basically like me and whatever dude, like figuring things out. That's kind of how it went. I don't think I started talking about, and then I got into a weird relationship. So I didn't really have any girlfriends to like necessarily talk about it with. And I didn't for a really long time. And even like when I was married, I remember my mom saying when we were having problems, like, I don't even know if I want to share it, but like, she was like, well, sometimes you just need to have some sex and it helps, and I was like, not if I don't really like him right now. Hey, that's not my style. Nope. It was sort of like maybe a different generational thought of like, oh, you just need to have some sex and everyone will feel good again and feel connected. And I'm like, I mean, possibly, but I don't respect him right now. So like,
yeah,
that's
so use your vibrator instead.
Yeah. It's just like not how I can, work. So how can we begin like to change the narrative you think on this on like a wider scale? Obviously it's just having conversations.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. And then just giving women like showing, like leading by example, like it's normal and it's okay. And if they don't feel like they have somewhere to turn to, like providing some level of a safe space for them to step into to start to, I don't even know what's the right word, like unravel or like uncoil these like all these pre-existing beliefs or like thought patterns around these topics. Cause it's like you said, like you turn to your girlfriends now, but then like some of them might even judge you because of their conditioning and their pre-existing beliefs and their pre-existing experiences, so it's just like, come in, we're open, like
yeah,
have these conversations.
That safe container where people can feel like safe to, ask questions and tell stories. Yeah, I think it's important. And then to be able to feel supported by other women. I know, right?
It's fun.
I think it definitely stems from like my take on it is that's what I love inside of this program that we're creating is let me give you all the information. Let me explain to you that, what, like, for example, one of the things that I'll teach on is women compare themselves to men sometimes, or we have that mentality. For example, if a man gets an erection, that means, okay, they're ready to go. Well, a woman's body doesn't work like that. She requires a lot more time for her body to become ready, like 15 to 45 minutes. Men, it takes 2 minutes, and there's a physical thing happening that shows. So women feel like, yeah, women will feel like, okay, well, I'm not wet yet, so I'm not ready. There's all these things going on. So yeah, if we're educating them inside of this, if I can teach you the right way, and then you go to brunch with your 5 girlfriends and you can teach your 5 girlfriends the few things that we just taught you, like hopefully it's going to spiral and you can continue educating your friends if you have the accurate information.
Yeah. Actually, I was having a conversation with a lash client about this. And kind of in relation to the podcast and how for me, I want it to be like the happy hour or a lash appointment where we literally talk about everything within a couple of hours. And we were talking about whether like the husbands and the men talk about this stuff. And she was like, no, I don't think they do. But it would really be better if they did. They could learn something if they would just share secrets with each other. We would all like, and I think for men, that's a whole different deal of like talking about more intimate things. And it seems vulnerable, or like maybe if they don't know, then they're not a man, and that's a whole nother conversation for,
Oh, for sure.
maybe other people,
It's
but
so
like,
big.
I know some of the
So
women
many
in
women are.
our program have asked Jaimie to do like the men's version, and but like you said, like, would they be willing to step into that with a female? I don't know. Because of all those stigmas, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. Yes. I think that if you create this space, there are more men that are learning and willing to dive in these days than ever. I see it happening. So I think that we should chat about that like a little bit off air, but I think that there's definitely room for it. I feel like it benefits everyone, right? Benefits everyone.
For sure. I agree with that. I think it's even because I can tell you how many women are like, can you teach us can you tell my husband that? Where that's like the whole relationship side of it. So let me teach you what you need to know about your body. And then, okay, now there's this whole relationship, pillar that we can talk about. And are you communicating with your partner? Are you setting the time, each week for you to have these conversations with your significant other? Because being in a relationship is a whole other, you take care of your house, you have your job, like relationship is a whole other thing you still need to be working on. You can't just expect it to work if you're not putting in any work.
Yeah. And if they can open up that line of communication, then maybe it can help the partner open up as well and feel safe to start talking about it and kind of grow in that area.
Oh, no. Yeah, for sure.
Why do we have to do all the work? I mean, maybe that's just because we can handle it. So what are some ways that, I guess like some tips, but like, what are some ways that we can start to learn how to show ourselves love, or just kind of pay more attention and kind of open up that like more connected way to our bodies? I mean, obviously there's like nutrition and the food that we put in our bodies, like fitness. I think weight training, like can be very meditative. Like I love that personally.
I agree with that. I think it's a great place to start. If you listen to like, the most successful motivational speakers or people that have like really led others to success, and they'll say oftentimes that it started with like dialing in on taking care of their health and what they desire to have physically relative to their bodies. And it just brings you this level of empowerment that wasn't in your existence before, because you weren't doing those things. You didn't feel good about yourself. So I think that's a really great place to start. And then that leads into like, okay, what boundaries do you need to set into place into your life? Because ultimately that's the purest form of self-love. If you're not living in alignment with self, then like you're never happy. And Jaimie does an amazing job talking about that inside of our program. But it's like people don't even know where to start when setting boundaries, because we're told all of our lives that like if you do that, you're a bitch, or like you're this, or like you're too difficult, you take up too much space, like you just like to argue, like all these going back to all these stigmas, right? So like
stories. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, and I mean, for me personally, like getting into weightlifting, but then also creating that boundary in my schedule to set that time aside, like that was one of the first points in my life that I think that I really was setting a hard boundary for myself, maybe anywhere. Like, I mean, I had my schedule, but I mean, throughout my 20s, I don't know like if I had any boundaries, like I don't know if I was ever saying no when I wanted to, and not like anything really, I guess. I mean, I got married, but like not that I wanted to say no to that, I was fine. That was a yes, but just speaking up for myself. But that was like the first time that I like started to take control. And I think it kind of helped me realize I could do a lot more. And sometimes I'm not sure that I give that enough credit, because I didn't realize that it was so connected. But yeah, I agree. When you start getting in there and like learning how to lift and you develop some inner strength, and then like I really like to touch my arms and feel the hard work and how like sexy they are to me, when you start seeing like your butt change shape or your thighs change. I don't know. I think it's really cool.
I agree. And I just like, there's nothing more empowering to me than like going, I mean, I shouldn't say nothing more, but it really like is, like you said, is where it kind of started for me, was like to test and retest not only what is happening physically, but like what are you capable inside of movement. And some people don't ever want to love the gym, and that's fine. It's like, just find whatever form of movement you align with, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're still going to find a similar or same like sense of empowerment from putting a boundary around inserting that into your schedule and seeing how it changes you both like externally, internally.
Yeah. And the accomplishment. And I mean, yeah, I like to dance too. Just, like not like ballroom or anything. But I like to dance too. That's just another way I feel like is, if that's something that you like to do, it's a good way to also just sort of get in tune and get in touch, and also release. Like there's a lot of release, like stress, tension there, and movement. But yeah, like having coaches that pushed me a little bit and made me realize that I was much stronger, and then I can like pack up boxes and move myself, or move a couch, or carry all my fucking groceries up 4 flights of stairs. Like there's the little everyday things too that it all just plays into. What are some other ways that you guys kind of like to teach or talk about in terms of self-love?
Well, just to piggyback off the boundaries, I think boundaries is super important just in parts of your life, because it's our job to teach people what we will and will not tolerate, right? So if we set these boundaries in our life, then we won't be doing everything for everyone. And we should have more free time. We should be able to say no to the things that we don't want to do. The other thing that I think is really important is following what makes you feel happy and what makes you feel right. So I think so many people get caught up in this life of unhappiness, or they don't want to get out of something because it's too scary. Or even though that if you get out of that, then there is this other part, if you get, maybe it's a toxic relationship that you need to get out of, maybe it's a job that you need to get out of. If it doesn't feel right, follow the path that feels right. If you just think about that and start saying no to the things that don't feel right, then you're going to end up on a path of happiness and self-love, and you're going to have more time for self-love.
I feel like it's like you said, it kind of is piggybacking off of the boundaries, because it's like, why do you feel like you have to stay in those situations? Usually it's not because of like a conversation you've had internally or with yourself, or like your wants, needs, and desires. It's what somebody else is expecting of you, or what will this person think, or like a lot of times too, like speaking of the toxic relationship thing, is like the history doesn't matter. You can still chalk it up to like, that was an amazing time in your life, but it's not right for you at this point anymore. There's so many like, I guess, byproducts of that conversation.
Oh, and
it comes down to energy too. Like I'm very big on energy. I'm still learning more about it, but we only have so much energy in a day. I'm sorry, but there's only so much energy. And if you're giving your energy to X, Y, and Z, how are you going to have energy for the time and the people that you actually want? So you really have to think about that. Stop trying to be like superwoman and super mom and do all the things, because you got this, which I'm sure you do, but there are some things that you probably need to say no to if you really check your life.
I think everyone should just go ahead and rewind about 15 seconds and listen to that again. Because women think that they have to be able to do it all and take all of it on, and never have a breakdown, never have a moment, never be emotional, never need a break, never need any rest, and never like maybe even have time to work on themselves. But I think that it's almost like just we're still being conditioned to be able to just take care of all of it and never really like need moments for ourselves, or like that's a privilege, to be able to have a moment to yourself. Like you can't have a job and do all of these things and take care of yourself. Nope, one has to give. And it seems like it's always their own self-care. And
And
it
I
breaks
think
my
too, when
heart.
you're, oh yeah. And when you're in the moment and doing it, you're like serotonin and dopamine, or I don't really know the neurochemicals that are like firing, but you can do it in that moment, right?
For sure.
It's the
Yeah.
after moment when the weekend comes or a few days later where you're crashed and you can't figure out why you're so tired and you just want to take a nap. That's when we shouldn't be feeling like that.
Yeah. Just hitting that wall. Yeah.
Totally.
I've learned a lot about, like, just somebody who's a little bit more introverted. I've learned a lot about my own energy management. I might just have to do like a solo episode on that, because I talk about it a lot, but just realizing like how much I can give, and then what I need to do for myself to make sure that I'm good the next day and can still like people, essentially.
Well, that's like that's such a not fulfilling way to live, right? Is like, if you feel like you're always doing these things for because it's your job or other people or whatever, and like you feel good about that, that's great. But like, how do you feel at the end of the week? And if you have no energy to put time or effort into yourself the way that you desire, and you just go through the rest of your life that way, like you don't have to do that. You just have to start inserting boundaries around your energy and your time. Like it's really what it comes down to.
And I think the first part of that is just awareness. Like, where
Absolutely.
do you feel like you're like stretching yourself too thin, and what could give and what could you take off of your plate? Like, where can you ask for help? Because it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to need it. It's okay to want it. It's okay to hire it. Like, I have to tell myself that too. Like, we just think we should be able to take care of everything. I have felt that way personally. I guess I shouldn't speak for everyone, but like, I've been single for a while. I've taken care of myself. And sometimes for me to think that I can't handle something, or why can't I figure this out, I will like kind of beat myself up. Like, why can't you do this, Abby? You know what? It's okay that you don't know. It's all right. And I think that we just have to also realize that a lot more than we do.
Well, and then just like going back to what you said, asking for the help that you need. I know, like previously, I used to be somebody that almost would wear it like a badge of honor, like how much I'm compromising myself to help everybody else. Like I wanted to be Mother Teresa, and it's like you can be Mother Teresa without compromising yourself. Like you can still help all of these people, and you can ask for the help that you need. Nobody's gonna think anything less of you.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's a hard one. And it's been pretty prevalent in conversations I've been having recently, and with other women. And so I like talking about it, because I just think we shouldn't need permission to do it, but it's almost like we do. And so, like, here's your permission, like, to ask for help, to take a break. And I want to also kind of clarify that it doesn't necessarily mean that we're saying like block out 2 hours for the gym, or that you have to have all this like separate time for this. It can be really small things. It can be just like making time to take a walk, or a 30-minute workout, or fixing a different meal, like making time to prep some food. I mean, I know like self-care and self-love can sound like bubble baths and face masks, and like that stuff is really nice too. You know, that's sort of like the cherry on top, I think, if you can do that for yourself in like little moments. But it doesn't have to be like this whole huge chunk of time just for you to feel like you've refilled your cup, you know?
Well, and like to piggyback off of that, and I know Jaimie will have a lot to say about this as well, but like if you're like taking a bubble bath, is it because you're trying to escape your reality, or are you actually getting in and relaxing? Like,
yeah,
big difference. Like,
well, and is that glass of wine helping you escape reality, or is it just going to make you sleep like shit?
right.
I think it's giving our body, there's the stress response cycle, right? So if we have all this stress that builds up inside of our bodies from all this energy that we're using, and if we're not doing things that actually complete your internal stress response cycle, like exercise, like going for a walk, and just doing a visualization or a meditation, or crying, like it's okay to cry, guys, please cry.
Release.
Doing things that are actually, like I know art is a big one. And I think, yeah, you can sit in a bubble bath. It definitely helps. But you still need to do things that complete the actual internal stress response.
What are your favorite ways, Jaimie?
Exercise, meditation. I'm not like the best at meditation. I'm learning. Like I said, I'm still like trying to get into this whole energy thing, but I like the term visualization. So I will sit, whether I go I like taking my dogs for walks every day, and I'm like present in my moment. So I'm not usually listening to music. I'm looking at the trees, I'm looking at the sky, and I'm like thankful and grateful for walking my dog and just being present in the moment. That has been super powerful for me. And then every single morning I say my affirmations and I tell myself how I want the day to go. So I will tell myself I'm going to have good conversations today. I'm not going to feel stressed out today. I have to check in with myself before my feet hit the ground when I get out of bed. And then I set my alarm for 1:00 in the afternoon every day. And once that goes off, I check in with myself again in the afternoon. And then I tell myself, did I do what I promised myself I was going to do in the morning? Did I let the morning get away from me? Was I stressed out when I shouldn't have been stressed out? Were there things that slipped by me that is out of my control? And do I want to spend the rest of my day worrying about those things?
God, I love the awareness. Damn.
Check-ins. That's something that I
been
learned from Jaimie. And like, that's like, if whoever's listening to this takes nothing else away, like insert a self check-in before you get out of bed, and some at like whatever midpoint is in your day, whether you're a night shift person or regular 9 to 5 or whatever that looks like check in with yourself before you get up. And then midday, guarantee, like, you can't avoid stressors in your life, right? But you're going to get much better at mitigating and managing them just from, that's like what Abby said, like awareness. Then you have a choice. If you're not aware, then you're just going through the motions. But once you build that awareness, now you have the opportunity to choose, like Jaimie said, like, how do I want this part of my day to go? Do I want to continue the feelings of like the first half of my day, or do I need to shift? Like,
I'd say the afternoon check-in is the most important, because if you don't do that afternoon check-in, your day is going to slip away from you.
Yeah, it can get away from you, and then you just
a crappy day. Breathe, like
you can let it roll
car
over you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
self-sabotage of eating, like, oh, I had a McDonald's whatever, I haven't had McDonald's
McGriddle.
Yeah, McGriddle. So now for lunch I'm gonna go eat like Burger King, and then dinner is gonna be Taco Bell. You know what I mean? Like, that's a little bit of an extreme example. Old Jillian, like 15 years ago, actually did that.
Yeah, same. That's how that's kind of how I grew up. Yeah, I mean, all alone, living on my own. Like, I sort of cooked, but I also worked at Pizza Hut and Taco Bell, and like lived on Brahms and Wendy's chicken nuggets. You know, like,
I would end up at chicken
at one point though.
Huh?
I feel like you'd get at a certain point, like you just can't eat it anymore because you've eaten so much.
But
well, like, I mean, like, like when you work in a restaurant, you learn to fix things the way that you like them. So there was only certain things that I ate, and I don't ever need it ever again. And now that I don't party on the weekends, there's no really like fourth meal. Like if I'm traveling or something, that I know what I will get from these places. But yeah, no, now it's not something that I really choose. Does Burger King still smell good when I drive by it? Fuck yeah. But it's just that flame broiled shit, you know? It's just a burger.
One other thing, just to like add to that conversation we're having, is the breath work. Like, that's something I used to do from a performance aspect, like trying to improve breathing techniques for workouts to be more competitive inside of CrossFit, whatever. But even just like I walk my dog probably 3 to 5 miles a day. And when I'm walking him, I'm very conscious of like my breathing. Like, can I get a full breath in? And if not, like, what's blocking me right now? Like, what am I anxious about? What am I stressed about? Whatever. And allowing myself to process through that is like, again, it doesn't just make that go away, but now your response to that is much better. You're more aligned with what needs to happen next. You can let go of it. You can take whatever action is necessary. It's just like being present with your breathing forces you to almost have like gratitude for that moment. And now there's this huge mindset shift, even if you were having a super stressful day.
Yeah, I think all of this is just like getting back in tune with like us and the checking in. And I love that, like checking in and especially midday, because like you're saying, like your whole day could just roll over you. And by the end of the day, you're exhausted and you're super stressed out. But if you can check in and see what's happened and then where you can go from there, and just beginning to get a little bit more connected back to you and back to yourself, it just really helps us respond rather than react, I think, in a totally different way. And over the course of like my own fitness journey and own personal like growth journey, I've realized like how much more aware of I am of myself in certain moments, and then how I can, rather than like, oh, I'm super tired today, like I just want all the carbs and the comfort food, I can be like, well, you know what's actually going to make you feel better than that is just eating like you normally eat, and like making sure you get veggies in and things like that. So I mean, it can take a little while, but I think that growth is, I think it's super cool. And I love this whole conversation. That's pretty much where I was going with that. So Jillian, what are some of the ways that you, so you're talking about breath work. Is that something that you still kind of like work with to kind of, some of your, what were we just talking about? They were like self-love tips, but they were like, how do you check
the
in
stress
with,
response cycle?
The stress response to self-love. Yeah, I mean, I feel like if I notice that I'm having a hard time being present, or I'm like hung up on something, then I will force myself to sit there and like take some deep breaths. And you can get super specific with breath work, but at the end of the day, if you're just like forcing like a deeper inhale and like pushing the air out, like do that 5 to 10 times, like do it right now. If whoever's listening, like guarantee you will feel better. You will feel better. Now you can attack the rest of your day accordingly. But yeah, so that's one of the things I'll stop myself, even if it's like a non-workout or like a rest day. The going for walks is huge. Just like getting outside, like into nature. I know it sounds like kind of like cheesy or whatever, but I mean, it's what we did as kids. Like we desired so much to be outside. Like why does that have to change once we become an adult? So that's another thing. And then just getting into the gym, like people say like gym is their therapy. And like I definitely agree with Jaimie. Like it can be very meditative. Like there's definitely a huge difference between release in the gym and like talking to a therapist. So I always just like to put that out there. But that's not to say that you can't like overcome a lot mentally, emotionally inside of the gym. So I would say those are my go-tos, and all of them, like really it's some form of movement and or just like being consciously present,
Yeah.
yourself grounded.
I agree. I love it.
I'm not perfect, but that's what I try to do.
Well, I mean, that's
Learning.
why it's a journey, and that's why there's never really like a destination,
Right.
even like the most like perfect and morning routine people are still gonna like kind of add something and adjust something as life goes on. And that's just what it is. So yeah, and we can all learn and grow together.
And that's what I even like, I tell people, just stay plugged in, keep watching, like listening to podcasts like these, and show up to your program and just show up, because you have to hear these things over and over and over again. It's not like you can fill out a 12-step paper and I can give you the secret and then you're just going to be
Check.
Yeah.
right. You're
Yeah.
just in love with yourself and everything is perfect. Like doesn't work that way.
Totally. I mean, I just finished like a whole 12-week program that like dove into limiting stories and how to navigate like regulating your nervous system, but that shit doesn't stop after 12 weeks. Like
Right.
I'm still working on things. Like it takes a lot of time to, number one, like undo to break down, like you always say, like to break it and then to build it back up. So I mean, I just sort of took the thing that you always say, Jaimie. So they say break to build, guys. So like that's a perfect
to build
kind of
a lot.
True.
Yeah.
Well, and like just to add to that, I can tell you every time I've sat in front of like a Zoom call, a live event, whatever, it doesn't matter how many times I've heard the same message. If there are a lot of like parallels, it hits differently at every like growth point or evolution point or whatever you want to call it along your journey. So to hear it repeatedly, like people are like, oh, what's the point? And it's like, if you're actually applying it to yourself and you're breaking to building, you're growing, like it's going to hit differently the next time you hear it. You're going to be able to apply it differently next time you hear it. Different light bulbs are going to go off.
Yeah, totally. I mean, shit, just depending on the way you woke up that day, it might hit differently, you know,
Right.
like,
Sure.
I agree. So since pure romance was just very pleasantly, organically brought up, like what? And that has to do with self-love. What are some of your recommendations or like some of your faves from, I don't know, that time of your life that you've just like carried on, or what do you guys like in terms of personal love
Like
items?
butterflies?
Sure. Yeah. Or whatever.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't
I'm
know.
all
I
about
don't know
that.
enough about pure romance. Like I just remember, I know that they're like, they host the parties, but I've never been to one. So I don't really even know like if it was just like lubes or if it's like actually toys or like lingerie or all of it.
For sure. My parties are always like, I'm always teaching. So I teach about like self-love. Then I'll go into foreplay, how your body responds in foreplay. I talk about the importance of lubrications and how we need lubrications depending on the different, this is a whole other conversation I feel like we could go into.
We'll do
Part
that.
two coming
Yeah.
soon.
We could,
Woman
yeah.
watching this needs a lubrication. That's all I'm going to say. You need a lubrication to protect your vaginal wall. And toys, everyone has their different reasons, but I truly believe that everyone should be at least using a toy, because how do you give pleasure, or how does somebody pleasure you if you don't know or understand what you even like?
Yes.
So you should be pleasuring yourself.
Amen.
You should be loving on yourself. You should, and it just helps to, I mean, there's different ways to do it, but you should be loving on yourself. It's going to carry over into your relationship. So if you'd like a toy to start off with, I would highly recommend a clitoral toy. If you've never used a toy before, just start small with a clitoral toy.
I've seen the ones that are like sucking ones now.
Oh yeah,
That looks super cool. I don't want one.
I'm sorry, the womanizer.
Oh, is that what it's called? Is that from Pure Romance?
Well, there's a bunch of different companies now that have like the suction one. The one that Pure Romance has, it's called the womanizer, and it's pretty life-changing. So
It's like, yeah.
seriously life-changing.
I love it.
Yeah.
What about you, Jillian?
Well, I have some basic stuff that Jaimie sent me.
Here's your gift basket, friend.
Right. I'm like, this is nice.
All I want for Christmas is dildos. Okay.
Everyone on their birthdays on Christmas, they already know what they're getting from me.
Jaimie's like, I got you. Yeah, I feel like we should do a part 2, or maybe like starring Jaimie. Like she knows exponentially more, specific to all of that.
Just host a live like party online.
There's so many things we could talk about.
I have a favorite because I agree, like actually there's an upcoming episode, well, depending on when this airs, but there's an episode where I'm going to talk about awkward first dates. And there was a time where I slept with the guy on the first date. I mean, it wasn't the only time, but whatever. And one of my biggest pet peeves and biggest complaints is that the condom will get dry and then it feels like the worst friction. It feels like fucking sandpaper. And I'm like, change the fucking condom. And if they're like, no, and they just keep going, I like get very irate. I literally just want to like put my foot, on them and like push them off, because that just pisses me off. I'm like, you're literally ignoring what I need right now for yourself, and like, get the fuck away from me. I actually basically got off the bed and started getting dressed at like 3 a.m. I was way too drunk. Like I shouldn't have been that drunk. Like there was a whole, like, didn't really like being on the date with him. So I drank a bunch. And then of course, then I was like, okay with him. And then we slept together anyway. I literally like almost left in the middle of the night because I was so pissed off that he wouldn't just listen to me. So
good for you.
Yeah. And then I realized I didn't know how to get out of his building. And I was like, am I really going to get an Uber right now? Like, I can't even like think straight. And he kind of talked me into staying. It was very strange. It was definitely like stage 5 clinger status the next morning. And it ended before it even got started. I was like, I really just can't, I can't with you. You're like, you're way too much for me. And then the next morning, like trying to still then start something up. And I'm like, no, dude, like number one, I feel like shit and I don't want to have fucking sex right now. I want to go home. I want to shower all of this off of me and I want to never talk to you again. So get your heart on out of my butt and like, get the fuck away from me. Like, why? Like the little humpy hump in the morning. Like, yes, I can feel it. Yeah, I can feel it. Thank you. You
Get
can
it off my leg.
It's gonna
Get it
get
off my
elbowed
butt.
if you don't watch out. We'll see how that feels. But so, and then speaking of warming up, there's this product that probably this could be for the next time that we talk about this stuff, but in my marriage, we did go to the sex store, the toy store, whatever, and we got a rabbit, which was life-changing. To say those little ears are magical. But we also spent enough money that we got something free, and it was this product called On, and it comes in like a little tiny bottle, and it's some sort of essential oils that you put only on the clitoris because like it would burn on the inside. And within like a couple of minutes, like, you know, when you hit the sweet spot on a dog when you're scratching him, like that was my literal reaction. And I tried it out alone and it was so intense that I was like, I can never use this with my husband. He would think that he was like not, you know, like up to par because it was so fucking intense. I was like, holy cow. It's the middle of the day, just like opera singing, you know, in my bedroom.
Usually there's different levels of those.
To this day.
They might have given you a different level, but yeah, I sell enhancement creams and I tell women, I'm like, listen, when you put this on, you have to have an action plan. Like you can't just like put it on and walk into Walmart. You have to like have an action plan.
Walk into Walmart.
Come here, babe.
Like you have to know what you're doing. Don't leave the house.
I mean, like it's that time that it's like you're said this is how we're setting the mood. Like
yep.
Yeah, I remember I worked with some nail techs at the time, and I remember I was like telling everybody about this stuff. I was like, you've got to try it. That's amazing. I'm like, because it can take a little while. So like sometimes it just like speeds up the process. I don't know. Super fun. So
good times.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is one thing that what would you tell your 25-year-old self?
That's such a good question. There's so many things. I would start with like the importance of building awareness around like, what do you truly desire? Because we actually just had this conversation or similar conversations, like society teaches us, you know, we go to school, we graduate, we go to college, we find a spouse, we settle down, we get married, we have kids. And like, while there's absolutely nothing wrong with that trajectory, like even if that ends up being the end result, like what do you want inside of that journey? Because I was never taught to like clearly define those things. And it's so important. You're never going to feel aligned or fulfilled or like truly happy if you don't take the time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I think I was going to say, stop worrying what everybody thinks and follow your path. Cause that's something that I've struggled with, is worrying about what other people think about me. So, you know, that's what I would say. And it definitely aligns with exactly what Jillian said too.
Yeah,
I feel like it's almost parallel.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, kind of having your non-negotiables and sticking to that, whether like someone else likes that or not. If it's true for you, then it doesn't matter. I think that's definitely like entering my 30s. I realized the whole like giving less fucks thing, and it's just continued. And I understand how like by 80, like we just say whatever we feel like because they just have zero fucks left to give. I say that a lot. I mean, it's just really, I'm like, oh, well, people just say whatever they want, man. Like no consequence. Because what are you going to do?
I just bought a sweatshirt on Sunday. It's a Care Bear and it says, I don't fucking care. And I was really excited about it.
I love it. That's super cute. What is like one last thing that you would like to share with the audience?
One thing I always like to say to people is like, it doesn't matter what your goal is, whether it's related to your body, your finances, your like whatever, insert whatever. And whatever you can dream, like you can't dream it if there's not a way you can do it. I know that also sounds kind of cliche, but like stop living inside of fear or like worrying about what other people think and just start taking one small action, one small daily action to align with like where is that you want to see yourself at the end of the day. Because you can say like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, and then all of a sudden you wake up and you're 80 and there's not many tomorrows left. So that's like the biggest thing, like just start small.
Yeah.
And I would say you're worth it, and stop thinking small and stop thinking that everyone else can. Sometimes I think we compare and we see other people that are like doing the thing, and we have it in our heads that we're not good enough or there's no way that we can do it. And we already start with a negative thought. So stop thinking that. You can do it. You're worth it.
Oh my gosh.
And just like Jillian said, start now.
I love all of that. I love you guys.
We love you.
We love
you. I love you.
We're like the Care Bears now.
Except for we fucking care. I'm just about us three.
Right.
Well, this was the most satisfying threesome that I've had ever.
Was that
Can we come back?
Was that a free frame? Was that what's happening here?
I don't know. Is it? How does it make you feel?
I'm not sure.
When you check in and you have the answer, you let me know.
Okay, I will.
Anyway, I can't wait to do it again. And thank you both for coming on so much and just sharing so much and talking about all of these things with me. And I love this conversation. I want to have more of these conversations. And so thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you. I'll see you. Bye.
Bye.
Big thank you to Jillian and Jaimie for coming on the podcast and that really fun conversation. You can connect with them both on Instagram. Connect with Jillian at JillianLee_nutrition. That's JILLIANLEIGH_nutrition. And Jaimie at JAIMIEJOANN_. That's Jaimie Joann_ and Jillian Lee_nutrition. Special announcement time. If you're thinking about your health goals for 2022, I want you to just take a moment here and think about what is it that you really want? What do you want to accomplish with your health and your body in 2022? What would make you really happy with your health and your body? The Radical Self-Acceptance Method is opening for enrollment very soon. And I'd like to invite you to ditch the self-sabotage. The yo-yo dieting, it's not working. It's not working. If another diet and another workout plan were going to work, they would work already. I want you to learn to trust yourself. And when you can trust yourself and when you can love and accept yourself, everything else comes easier. Everything. None of it matters. None of it matters if you don't love yourself first. Take a moment to fill out the application that will lead you to booking a free call with me, and we can chat about the Radical Self-Acceptance Method and if it is the right fit for you at this time. Hit the link in the episode notes, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you for tuning into the Crushing with Abby podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, go ahead and subscribe or follow. And please leave a 5-star review while you're there. Share this podcast with any of your girl or guy friends that you know could use an extra laugh once a week. You can also find me on Instagram at abbyo.fit. That's ABBYO.fit. Talk soon.